Lesson 3. Only do what you would be happy for everyone else to do. The search for a solution to the grounding problem in ethics led 18th century German philosopher Immanuel Kant to advocate for reason rather than faith as the basis for moral decision-making. Kant wanted ethics to be almost scientific. Newton had demonstrated that the world conformed to absolute laws, and as we are part of the world, the things we do should also conform to absolute laws. Kant came up with a rule, which he believed reason could judge to be unbreakable. Just as apples must conform to the law of gravity and eventually fall from trees, so we must conform to the laws of ethics, no exceptions. He called the formulation of his law the categorical imperative. It was categorical because it was absolute. It was imperative because it was a law that must be followed. He claimed this use of pure reason applied to ethics, not a book or a church or an authority figure, would demonstrate right and wrong action. The categorical imperative can be formulated in different ways. The first two ways are the most useful. The first formulation is the universalizability principle, which Kant phrased as follows: act only according to that maxim which you can at the same time will that it should become a universal law without contradiction. In other words, when you intend on doing something, consider what maxim or rule you could derive from your action. If you're happy for that maxim to be universalized, for everyone to do it, then you can do it. If not, then you should not do it. Remember, there are no exceptions. You cannot be the apple that chooses to ignore gravity and float in the air. Here's an example. Say you have an opportunity to cheat on a test. Maybe you find the exam paper ahead of time, and you're pretty sure you can get away with it. What should you do? You decide to run the decision through the universalizability principle. So according to Kant, you should turn your action into a maxim, which would be something like this. If you have the opportunity to cheat on a test and get away with it, then it's okay to cheat on a test. You are thereby approving of the maxim of universal cheating, saying that you would be happy for everyone to cheat. Except, I bet you wouldn't be. The test only has value because most people don't cheat, and the grades we receive are therefore a fair reflection of our ability and effort. So you don't actually want everyone to cheat. You only want yourself to be able to cheat. You have made yourself an exception and created a contradiction, and that is, or ought to be, ethically impossible. Imagine getting on an aeroplane and seeing the pilot in the cockpit. How do you know she is actually a safe and competent pilot? Because you have universalized cheating, you have no idea whether she has actually sat any proper exams. No one would want this. So we don't actually want to universalize cheating, so don't cheat. Universalizability has a logical appeal and works well in a world of absolutes. However, critics of Kantian ethics point out that human life cannot easily be shoehorned into such a world of absolutes. Take this example. One day a man comes to your door asking to know where your dad is. Your dad is in the living room watching TV. As a Kantian, you are obliged to tell the truth because you cannot universalize lying. As you're about to say, he's in the living room watching TV, you hesitate when you notice that the man is carrying a gun and has what looks like hostile intent. If you follow the categorical imperative and tell the truth, you fear that the man may kill your father, and you rightly balk at this idea. Does Kantianism really demand that I get my dad killed? Kant would say that as there is no way to know the future or be 100% certain of the outcome of our actions, we should not base our moral decisions on what might happen. The man might kill your dad. He might not. Maybe, hearing the man at the door, your dad sneaks out the back. Now you lie and send the would-be murderer on his way, but now you've actually placed him in the path of your father. Had you told the truth, the man would have come into the house and your dad would have avoided him. Who can know? The point is, no one can, and so your only moral obligation is to the moral law in front of you. Do not lie. My dad is in the living room watching TV. Now, you might decide to fight the man and warn your dad to run, but what you must not do is lie. Ever. The second formulation of the categorical imperative takes a different tack. Act so that you treat humanity, whether in your own person or in that of another, always as an end and never as a mere means. In other words, do not use other people as a means to an end, or more accurately put, as a mere means to an end. It's okay to use people as a means as long as they are free to accept or reject how they are used, and as long as you are honest with them about what is happening. For example, your employer uses you as a means to an end, to help their business, but they do so with your agreement and with a legal contract specifying the terms of the relationship. They use you, and you use them to get money. And that's fine. But to use someone as a mere means is to deny them their autonomy to make free decisions, and therefore to act morally. That is why honesty is so important. If you deceive me, I cannot properly make a rational, autonomous decision, because any decision I make is based on false information. If you ask me to lend you some money to buy food, but really you are going to use it to buy drugs, I no longer have the ability to make a decision based on the facts. You have treated me as a mere means to your end, and that goes against Kant's second categorical imperative. So overall, Kant is arguing that a rational application of the categorical imperative in either formulation will lead us to absolute moral truths. Another theory does a similar thing, natural moral law, which we will look at in the next lesson.